In 2019, I would have visited Beishan for the first time with my husband and my teenage son. He was around 12 or 13 at the time. And we spent a month there. We went for the seminar there in June, and we'd have come back in coming down to the close to the ending up of July. And when my husband visited Beishan, I think it would have concreted everything in his heart and in his mind, what he wanted to do with the rest of his life. For me, it was just a visit. It was just a visit to see what Beishan was like. But for him, it was the icing on the cake of what, what he wanted to do with the rest of his life, because he was a soldier for majority of his life. Then he would have, when he reached 45 years, he would have to retire from the army if he did not make it up to the ranks. And he would have done that. Then he was drafted into a specialty unit where police and soldiers work together. So at that point in time, when we visited in 2019, he was working in that special unit. And after his visit to Beishan, now my husband is a man, he does not talk much. And whatever he comes up with in his mind, he does. So we didn't have a discussion. So when he came back at the ending of July, as I told you. And by September, my husband was retired, because he went and he put in for early retirement. And I had to ask him, I say, we did not discuss this. We still have a child that is attending secondary school. He has how many years in secondary school? Because I believe he was in either Form 1 or now going to enter Form 2 when September opens. Right, he was going to enter Form 2 when September time came. So that means we had 4 years to send this young man to school. And I'm asking, where are we going to get the finance? And his thing is that God is going to provide. So he went on faith. Now, for us, I don't know, I cannot talk for anybody else, but for me as a woman, I like to see things put in place, because we don't want where our children are concerned that they are in need of something and you do not have the means in which to give it to them. So for me, I always like to put things in place. That's just my nature. I don't know if it's every other woman's nature, but it's my nature. I like to put things in place. So if I'm planning, okay, like when we were planning to go to Beishan, good, I had to put things in place, because money don't just fall from the sky. So I had to prepare. For Caribbean women, we know what susu is. So I joined a lot of susu so that I can make up the finance, so that we could get the finance to buy the tickets to go. Because for 3 of us, it was not no little bit of money. From Trinidad to Beishan, it cost us over 24,000 TT dollars. And that's a lot for Trinidadians. That's a lot of money. So fast forwarding, he went, he visited, and he concrete in his mind what he's going to do with the rest of his life. So a day he was sitting at the edge of the bed and he was saying, he spoke to God and he asked God for forgiveness, for his sins and things like that. And, he's saying that, he knows that the Lord would have forgiven him. And here I am telling him that when you go to God and you ask for forgiveness, you're also supposed to ask the persons that you would have wronged for forgiveness. Big mistake. Big mistake. So he watched me and he said, for real? And I said, yeah. When you ask for forgiveness, you have to ask the person also that you have wronged for forgiveness. And sisters, that gentleman sat and he poured his heart out. He would have poured his heart out. Now, let me tell you something about being in the military and as a military wife. Now, I would have told myself that here what's going on. I'm the best wife that the Lord would have put on this earth, and that I was really secure in my marriage until my husband opened his mouth that fateful day and gave me some information that tore my world apart. And when he did, I was really shocked and bombarded. I did not know what to do. I could not have dealt with the emotions, the betrayals, and all of that. So I had to, I seek counseling. And we were assigned brother and sister daughter. And I went through maybe a year and more counseling with the dads. Sisters, when we are betrayed, we are angry. First of all, we are numb, we are angry, we are hurt, we are disappointed. You name it, and all the floodgates came and it was opened up. And I really and truly could not have bear it. Now, one piece of advice that Brother Dodd gave me that I did not take into account. He said, Sister Moses, be careful of the questions that you ask. Because in where my husband would have reached, any question I asked, he would have answered. And he did answer. And he answered every one of them truthfully. And I pushed and I progged and I pushed and I progged. And he opened up his heart like a flood, like a storm, and he let out everything that he had. So at that point, he would have freed himself from all the guilt that he had, because he knew that the Lord would have forgiven him. But his truth now became my prison that I would have imprisoned myself in. It was not my truths, but I became a prisoner within those truths. Because for me, I have a wild and vivid imagination. So according to the information that I asked and he gave, my goodness, my emotions and my imagination went haywire. As I told you, we would have gone to Bishan in 2019. He would have made up his mind. So about 2021, he would have, opened up. Sisters, it is 2025. And I'm telling you, it has not been an easy road. It has not been an easy road. During the course of those 4 years, I am now diabetic. I am now hypertensive. And recently, I was diagnosed with an enlarged heart. And these are all results of me holding on to hurts and anger. Now, yesterday I spoke to a young man who is going through separation from his wife and his children. Now, when I call him, I try calling him on a regular basis, to find out how he's coping. So yesterday I would have called and we would have had a conversation, maybe about an hour long. And really and truly, I thought I was going to encourage this young man, to hold on, to stand on the promises of God. But that phone call was more for me, because I would have, shared some of my experience with what went on with my husband and I. And I was telling him that, sometimes I feel like I cannot handle it, that I want to separate from my husband. And this young man, despite of all what he's going through, because he and his wife is actually separated, and he is counseling me now about separation from my husband. And he's telling me, Sister Moses, don't do it. Don't do it. And he brought up some points that I've never, maybe Sister Dot and them had told me about it, but in my anger and in my haste and my unforgiveness, the counsel would have gone over my head. And he told me, he said, yes. He said, I'm not putting aside the pain and the suffering that you would have gone through. But he said, have you looked at it? He said, God would have saved your husband from a life of sin. And he would have brought him to Christ. He would have turned his life around. And he would have gone to Christ. And listen to me, sisters. That broke me. Because here I am being selfish. And when I tell you that human beings are selfish, we are truly selfish. Because here it is. These are truths that men take to their graves. They don't confess. They don't confess. These are things that men take to their graves. And at their graveside, then you realize how many children they have outside and all these things. And here it is, I was fortunate that the Lord would have touched my husband's heart and would have arrested him in his sinful state and called him to his marvelous light. And I was not even appreciative that the Lord would have taken him out of a sinful life and placed him on a higher level to really be the priest and the husband and the father of the home. Because these are duties that I would have taken on over the years, because he was never at home. He was never at home. The government have him for their hours and whoever else had him for whatever other hours. So I was father and mother within the home. But here it is, the Lord would have restored him to his rightful place. And I had no appreciation for it. Sisters, when our husbands, our family do things, you see, the closer the people are that hurt us, the more devastating the news, the more devastating the act and everything. But we have to remember, our forgiveness is hinged, because it's hinged on what we do. Because if we do not forgive, we ourselves cannot be forgiven. That is the criteria of forgiveness. Because the Lord tells us that forgive, because he brought the Our Father prayer to me. The young man said, remember the Our Father prayer. Right, that it says, forgive those that trespass against thee, that you will be forgiven of your trespasses. And listen, it's not the first time I've heard it, but yesterday it made real sense to me. Sometimes you're hearing things over and over and over, and it's only when the timing is right, it impacts you like a real ton of bricks, and it impacted me yesterday. And I am here to tell sisters, forgive and forgive quickly. Because unforgiveness is like a cancer. And the longer you stay in that position, the worse the cancer becomes. Because sometimes it might be just one little piece spot, but the longer you stay there, it's going to get bigger and bigger and spread more. And the longer you stay in that position of unforgiveness, the harder it becomes to forgive others. So when persons do you anything, go quickly. And make your path clear. Cleanse your heart. Cleanse your mind. Because how we feel is going to impact our emotional, our mental, our physical being, because everything is hinged on the other. Because we are not only physical beings, but we are spiritual, emotional, mental, social. We are all these put together. These make up the whole person, right? Because the Lord He didn't make a mistake. He didn't make a mistake when He put everything into us. He did not make a mistake. He gave, when He made Eve, He know the burdens she'll have to carry. And He equipped each and every one of us. He equipped each and every one of us to carry the burdens that is laid before us. But a lot of times we forget that here we're going on. We want to do it on our own, but we always have to really and truly put God first and let Him lead in everything that we do. We need to put God first and let Him lead. And I am telling you that my unforgiveness would have caused me a whole lot of problem. But the good thing about it is that I'm alive today. The Lord would have given me time and chance that I could come before Him and really and truly fall at His feet and be broken, and to really and truly ask Him for forgiveness, and to really and truly change my wicked ways, and to really and truly see my husband as a branch plucked from the fire, and to see his worth not in my eyes but in the eyes of God. And when I see him, his worth in the eyes of the Lord, then I'll be able to better appreciate him. Yes, he would have done wrong. Yes, I would have been hurt. But I want to thank God today that He would have listened to him, because for many years before, listen, my husband would have gone through accident after accident, things after things. And I remember the last accident that he had. He came, his car, somebody ran into his car. And when you look, it was on the driver's side that the car was bounced. He had to climb through the passenger window to get out of the vehicle. But sisters, he came home without a scratch on his body. Yes, the car was banged up, but that's material things, because those things you can fix. Another instant I remember, he went diving, training some young men to do diving, freestyle diving. Freestyle diving is that you go down with no oxygen tanks or anything. My husband's an asthmatic. So he went down the first time and he didn't reach. So he went down a second time. Right? The goal is to grab a handful of sand from the bottom of the sea floors and come up with it. And he did it. But when he came up, he was out of breath. And I don't know if anyone who is asthmatic knows what being out of breath is. And he asked his asthma medicine. He took a puff. But then the men just saw him. He just let go of the side of the dinghy and he just went under. So they waited a while. They didn't see him come back up. So they now had to dive to go down. Remember, this is a training exercise. So these are men now learning to go down, to hold their breath for that long, to go down to the depth. I think it's about 20 feet. And they had to go down and to grab the sand and to come up. This time wasn't a handful of sand. This time was one of their comrades they had to go to retrieve. The first attempt they made, they go down, and he had drank so much water. He was so heavy that one person couldn't pull him up. So he had to resurface and to raise an alarm so that other men will go down to help. And these are things that is taking time. These are things are taking time. And when the alarm was raised, other men went down and they got him. Sisters, when they pulled my husband out of the depths of the sea, he was unconscious. he would have been heavy because he would have been taking all that water and things like that. Now, from Tetron to the nearest hospital is miles. The first hospital they would have met was the Adventist hospital, and they would have carried him there. The driver who would have taken him, would have told me that I and him is good. So he said there's no way that he could come and tell Maro that her husband died. I'm just letting you know, telling you this to see how many times he could have died and the Lord would have preserved him. And here it is, the Lord would have preserved him for 2019. For him to go to Bashan, for him to see, because all these years I've been talking to him and telling him, all these accidents that you are going through is the Lord trying to get your attention, to give your life over to him, and you're not listening. And I'm telling him, I say, see how many chances God given you, and I'm telling him that when you see you don't listen, the Lord is going to take you out. And these are the words I was using to him. And here it is in 2019. The Lord would have taken him. And I did not even stop to see the blessing. All I did was wallow in my sadness and in my pain and in my suffering. And I did not see that the Lord would have arrested him and to bring him and to have him in his past here in this time. Sisters, my husband is standing up in front of our group in Trinidad because our leader is not here. So he's acting in the role. And he's standing up and giving study. A man who, as I tell you, do not talk much. But here it is, he's standing before God's people and giving lesson study. And where I'm supposed to be proud of the work that the Lord would have done on him, I have been a selfish wife, just thinking about myself and not thinking about where the Lord would have brought him from. So where the Lord would have brought him from, here what's going on. I am way back there, because before I was the person standing in the gap and praying and keeping the family together. And now I have fallen even further than where I was when he was out in the world. So I am bringing my testimony and hoping that it will encourage some sister that whatever you are going through, continue praying on behalf of your husband, because I can assure you, I prayed a lot for him in those times when he was out in the world. Do you know now that he is in the arms of Christ and in the fellowship with the Lord? I could no longer pray. I've forgotten how to pray, because I have been so unforgiven for so many years that it has even blocked the avenue that I could go to God. I know it's there, but have I used it? Because my focus is so much on me that I've lost sight of where God is in my life. Sisters, do not reach this point, because the journey is much harder when you have to start from way back. And every day messages is coming is that we are the end of the journey, and I'm way down the road. I'm overweight. So the youthfulness that I had as a young person, I cannot run the distance. I get out of breath very quickly. But here what's going on. I'm thanking God for Jesus. I'm thanking God for Jesus, because who knows? He's holding back the time because he's seen one sinner way down the road who's willing to start the journey and to come up to the standard. And I'm praying, God, that he gives me time, that I will be able to come up in character in which he wants us to come up to. So this is my confession. This is my testimony. And I pray, God, that it will help and enlighten someone on this line today, that you will use the time that you have and use it wisely. Because as parents, we know we talk to our children, but here we're going on. There's a time when talking doesn't do the job, then a cocktail will help to remind them. And we don't want to be in that position where the Lord will say, here we're going on. I've given you time and chance, and you're not making use of it. So I'm going to cut you off at this point, because long as we are cut off with unconfessed sins and unforgiveness, we know we are not going to see the Lord, and we're not going to come up in that first resurrection. If we die, we are not going to be caught up with Him. We are not going to be changed in a twinkling of an eye. So this is my admonition to each sister today. Forgive quickly, and move on.